Ranking third on our rivals list is none other than Gate for Mega Man X6. Despite how rocky X6 was as a whole, from its gameplay to its story presentation, I see Gate as a shining beacon of good ideas. This is going to be a long one, so strap yourselves in. To start, I'm going to dive right into Gate's lore while explaining why it's important from an investment perspective. Gate was a Reploid researcher who worked with other scientists to study the potential of Reploid engineering. Because of X and Zero's super advanced designs, which no other researchers have been able to figure out, he became fascinated by the idea of DNA which could not be analyzed. Gate began to work on advanced designs with the ultimate goal of creating his own Reploids with DNA in this bracket, essentially doing away with the concept of mass production and creating something nearly identical to a real unique human life. Eventually, he managed to succeed, creating 8 Reploids who would ultimately become the Nightmare Investigators from X6. Gate's Reploids were extremely powerful, capable of doing things far beyond what some thought possible. The group was extensively praised by the world and were deployed on missions many once thought impossible. While he was already not well liked by most of his colleagues due to his cold, condescending personality and his tendency to do as he pleased, this advanced things out of control. Resentful, jealous, and afraid of what Gate was able to create, his colleagues conspired against him and one by one began sabotaging the Reploids or labeling them as Maverick until none of them remained alive. Understandably, this caused Gate to become bitter and resentful, leading him to become an outcast. He left everybody behind and began wandering the world. Eventually, he came across the crash site of the space colony Eurasia. This highlights one of the key reasons I find Gate so fascinating. During his time searching the wreckage, he comments on how terrible the situation was and expresses clear concern for the state of the planet as well as disdain for the fact that nobody had begun to properly repair the situation and that it was allowed to happen in the first place. It's at this point that Gate comes across a particularly special piece of scrap from the site, a piece of Zero. Upon taking it, he immediately begins to feel the grip of Zero's powerfully heightened virus from the previous game, and eventually goes completely mad. In the span of just 1 week, Gate manages to analyze 99.98% of Zero's DNA, a feat which is explicitly stated has been next to impossible. Using his newfound treasure and abilities, Gate not only resurrects his 8 dead creations, but also creates the nearly invincible Hymax, the Zero Nightmare, and the Nightmare Virus. He then sets out to use this power to frame Zero for a new cataclysmic event that is seemingly warping the laws of nature in order to cull the weak and create a world where only the strongest Reploids exist under his command. So that's a ton to go over. First, let's talk about how intricate Gate's story is as a whole. Both past and present, he has a level of depth and detail that most one-off villains could never even remotely dream of having. It's detailed, tragic, and fascinating for so many reasons. It details what Reploids are capable of as their own race, the types of corruption present in the world, and helps to raise the ever-important question of what it means to be a Maverick. Gate got in one game what it took over 5 to give Sigma. And let's not forget, we get explicit details on how and why Gate began to turn. His beloved creations were assassinated out of jealousy by those he used to work with. Even Alia, who was one of his colleagues, was tricked into helping eliminate both Blizzard Wolfang and Ground Scaravage, despite the two having obvious chemistry together. Gate wasn't evil. He was skilled but arrogant. He broke protocol on occasion, but never enough to do anything expressly destructive or rebellious. The level of resentment he got was incredible, which made his initial anger entirely justified. Using the Zero Virus as a tipping point to turn him into the most powerful enemy in the X series was a perfect concept that managed to make an otherwise rushed, poorly translated story amazingly good. And yes, I did say most powerful. Sigma may operate on the cusp of immortality, but with repeated assistance and the ability to transfer between bodies. But let's look at Gate. In his normal state, he was able to create Reploids nearly on par with X and Zero's DNA specs through his own hard work and determination. And just by obtaining a single sample of Zero to analyze, he was able to resurrect the dead, bend reality on a worldwide scale, and become invincible to every known power on the planet except his own. That's unbelievable. I haven't even gotten to his battle yet. Let's backtrack to that invincible note. When finally cornered by X, he confesses that he has no other methods of fighting back. With no other options, he dons golden armor and battles X himself. Gate has the ability to fly freely without ever stopping, allowing the arena to be broken and bottomless, already giving himself a massive advantage. This is furthered by the fact that absolutely nothing X has in his arsenal is capable of damaging him. His only two methods of attack are summoning gates and sweeping across a wide vertical area with an arc of energy. The sweep is dangerous as it will deal high damage and temporarily destroy the platforms in the room, but the gates are the most important thing. There are 5 different types that Gate can summon. A green one will track X down and attempt to ram him. Orange will fire projectiles from a distance. Blue will draw X in like a gravity well. Red will slow down time exclusively for X, and purple will eventually generate a nightmare virus. These gates can cause a lot of problems in battle, but are also able to be destroyed and reflected back at Gate. This means that the only power strong enough to damage Gate is his own. Eventually, when defeated, Gate activates a partially resurrected Sigma as a last resort. Sigma claims he needed no help and attacks Gate, who is overpowered due to already being so damaged. In the end, after thoroughly defeating Sigma, who was nowhere near as powerful as Gate was, X pulls Gate's body from the destroyed laboratory due to his great compassion. He says it's up to Aelia what to do with him. This implies that despite the fact that he never returns later in the series, Gate could have very well been repaired and either rehabilitated or imprisoned. I choose to believe the former, but it's clear that I'm a fan, so take that as you will. Like I said earlier, Gate manages to get one of the most intricate stories of a rival character in the span of just one game. He was also the first antagonist in the X series to not be manipulated by Sigma in any way. Gate stood on his own. He possesses some of the highest intelligence and power in the entire series, and I wish desperately that the franchise had progressed in a different direction to give him the further attention he rightly deserved.